After the simulation, Professor Zinnik walked slowly through the halls of the academy. The cheers and laughter of students echoed behind him, but he did not join them. His mind was full of thoughts. He remembered all his years as a teacher, all. The times he had said that order was the only path to victory. Now, those old words felt weak and thin. He could not stop thinking about Ethan and the way the human had led his team. There were no strict plans, no perfect formations, just quick thinking and trust in each other. Somehow, it worked. Zinnik felt confused and lost. He stayed in his office late that night. He looked at the wall full of medals and awards he had. One for teaching strategy and order. They made him feel even more tired. Zinnik decided he needed answers. He sent a message to Ethan, asking him to come and speak with him. Ethan arrived after dinner. He was surprised to see the professor alone and without his usual serious face. Zinnik offered Ethan a seat. For a while, neither of them spoke. Zinnik finally broke the silence. He asked, "Ethan, can you tell me how you learned all these things? Why do humans fight this way, with so much chaos? It is not like anything I have seen on any other world." Ethan thought for a moment. He remembered his own childhood on Earth. He told Zinnik about his family and friends, about storms that came without warning and wild animals that appeared in the night. He said, "On Earth, you must always be ready for something new." We do not always know what will happen. Sometimes the ground shakes, or the water rises, or a storm takes the roof away. People have to help each other and find a way to survive. There are no easy days. Zinnik listened carefully. He asked, "But how do you know what to do when there is no plan?" Ethan smiled. "We do not always know. We watch, we listen, and we try new things. If one thing does not work, we do something else. Sometimes you have to make a new plan every minute. My parents taught me that. My teachers did too. And sometimes we just trust our friends to help." Zinnik shook his head. He looked worried. "I spent my whole life teaching order. Now, I feel like I do not understand anything. The other students listen to you, not me. I feel like a stranger in my own academy." Ethan leaned forward. He said, "Professor, your lessons are still important. Order can help people work together. But when things change, order alone is not enough. That is when you need chaos, or at least you need to be ready for change. On Earth, we call it adapting. You taught your students to think, and I helped them see that sometimes thinking means doing something new." Zinnik was quiet for a long time. His golden eyes looked sad. "I always thought chaos was dangerous. I told my students to fear it. But maybe I was wrong." Ethan reached out a hand. "You were not wrong. You just did not see the whole picture. Order and chaos are both tools. You need both to survive." Zinnik could not hold back his feelings anymore. He covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. He began to cry, softly at first, then harder. All his life's work, all his certainty, now seemed to fall apart. He felt as if he had failed everyone. Ethan stood and walked around the desk. He put his hand on Zinnik's shoulder and waited. When Zinnik finally looked up, Ethan said gently, "You did not fail. You taught so much. You helped your students become strong. You can still teach them more. Maybe you can help them learn to balance order and chaos." Zinnik wiped his eyes. He nodded, though he still looked sad. "It is hard to change after so many years," Ethan smiled. "On Earth, we say it is never too late to learn." Zinnik let out a small laugh. He said, "Maybe I can learn a little chaos. Maybe you can help me." Ethan nodded. "We can help each other. I can show you some human tricks, and you can show me more about order and planning." They talked long into the night. Ethan shared stories of humans facing impossible odds and still finding ways to win. He told how his own village worked together when a river flooded their homes. People who were not friends became friends, and even enemies helped each other. In those moments, Ethan said. "It does not matter what rules you learn. What matters is if you are ready to help and ready to change." Zinnik listened and took notes. He asked many questions. For the first time, he really wanted to learn from chaos. By the end of their talk, Zinnik felt a little lighter, as if a heavy stone had been lifted from his heart. When Ethan left, Zinnik sat alone and wrote in his notebook. He wrote, "Order and chaos. Both are needed. I must teach both. Students must be ready for anything." Zinnik closed his notebook and looked out the window at the stars. The galaxy was full of things he did not understand, but he no longer felt afraid. The next day, Zinnik called all the students together. He looked different, almost younger. He told them about his talk with Ethan. He said, "I was wrong to say that only order matters. I have learned that the best leaders are those who can adapt, who can make new plans, and who trust others. I want all of you to learn both order and chaos." Some students cheered. Others looked surprised. Ethan smiled quietly in the back. Zinnik asked Ethan to stand with him at the front of the room. Together, they began a new lesson. Zinnik showed how order could help a group work together. Ethan showed how chaos and surprise could help when things went wrong. The students practiced both ways. Sometimes they marched in lines and followed signals. Other times, they broke into small groups and tried new tricks. They learned to make plans, but also to change them when needed. Zinnik felt proud again. He watched his students grow stronger and smarter. He even tried some of Ethan's tricks himself. Sometimes he fell or made a mistake, but he laughed and tried again. The students respected him more than ever. Now, they saw him as someone who could change and learn, not just someone who gave orders. Ethan and Zinnik became good friends. They shared meals and stories. Sometimes they disagreed, but they always listened to each other. The academy was a happier place. There was more laughter and more learning than ever before. That night, Ethan looked up at the stars and thought about home. He felt proud. He had brought a small piece of Earth to a faraway world and helped change a whole academy. He knew that order and chaos together could make anything possible. The academy became even busier as the next challenge grew closer. There was excitement in the air. The Galactic Academy was about to host a grand simulation. This time, real visiting officers from different worlds came to watch and judge. These officers were experts in war and peace. They wanted to see which students would be the leaders of tomorrow. Professor Zinnik felt nervous. He wanted his students to do well. He wanted to prove that order and careful planning were still important. He told his best students to practice every day. He gave them strict instructions. Always follow the plan. Never break formation. Trust your orders. Zinnik believed this was the only way to win, but not everyone agreed. More students were listening to Ethan now. They asked him questions between classes. They wanted to know how to act when things did not go as planned. Ethan told them that sometimes the best answer was not written in a book or given by a teacher. Sometimes they had to think for themselves. Ethan was chosen to lead a small mixed group in the simulation. There were 4 other students with him: Kira from Norrin, Sam from Earth's moon, Tovin from the low-gravity planet, and Lyra with 4 arms. Each had different skills. Some were afraid, but Ethan tried to help them feel brave. The officers created a battlefield in the arena. It looked almost real, with trees, hills, rivers, and even fake weather. The teams were given maps and rules. They would face surprise attacks, shifting terrain, and changing missions. Sometimes a river might flood. Other times, fog might cover the land. No one knew what would happen next. Zinnik's group was large, full of his best students, all ready to follow his orders exactly. When the match began, the 2 groups moved into the simulation. Zinnik's team walked in perfect lines. They kept their eyes forward, scanning for danger. They stayed close together and waited for signals. At first, everything went well for them. They made it across the open fields without trouble. They reached the first checkpoint quickly. Ethan's team moved differently. He told his friends to keep their eyes open and their minds ready for change. He said, "If you see something strange, say it. If something feels wrong, tell me." They did not walk in straight lines. Sometimes they hid, sometimes they ran, and sometimes they waited quietly, listening to the sounds around them. Soon the battlefield changed. Dark clouds rolled in and rain began to fall. The rivers rose quickly and the hills became slippery. Zennik's team tried to move as their map said, but the path was flooded. They argued about what to do, waiting for new orders. Some of the students grew nervous. Zennik's voice came through the radio. "Stick to the plan. Do not break formation." Ethan's team saw the river first. Kira pointed out a tree that had fallen across the water. Ethan checked it for safety, then helped his friends cross one by one. When the rain got worse, Tovin suggested using the large leaves as umbrellas. Lara tied ropes around everyone's waist so no one would fall in the fast water. They worked together, using their skills and making new plans each minute. Suddenly, there was a surprise attack. Small machines hidden in the grass jumped out, making loud noises and firing harmless but bright lights. Zennik's team tried to fight in their formation, but the ground was too slippery, and some students fell. They waited for new commands, but the noise made it hard to hear. Ethan told his group to spread out. He said, "Do not try to fight all the machines. Just move past them. Use the trees for cover. Make noise in one place, then run to another." Kira made bird sounds to draw the machines away, while Sam tossed stones to confuse their sensors. Tovin jumped high onto a rock and waved his arms, making the machines follow him. Lyra crawled low to the ground and reached the next checkpoint. First, the officers watched from above. Some smiled, some whispered to each other. They could see that Ethan's group was doing something new. They were not the fastest or strongest, but they were clever. They did not freeze when things changed. They found answers in the middle of chaos. Zennik's team reached the checkpoint, but lost time. Some students were wet and cold. Others argued about whose fault it was. They tried to go back to the plan, but every change made them slower. The officers took notes. As the battle went on, Ethan's group kept changing their plans. When the fog rolled in, they listened for the sound of water and birds to find their way. When the wind blew over a wall, they used the pieces for shelter. When their path was blocked, they built a new bridge from branches and stones. At one point, Ethan saw a team from Zennik's group stuck in the mud. Instead of leaving them, he helped pull them out. He said, "In real life, you do not leave friends behind." This act surprised everyone. Some students from Zennik's team started to follow Ethan's lead, forgetting the strict rules for a moment. The final test was the hardest. The arena made the ground shake, and rocks fell from above. Zennik's group tried to hold their formation, but the line broke. Some ran, some stayed, some called for help. Ethan's group spread out, looking for safe spots. Ethan called to his friends, "Look for shelter. Do not panic." They found a cave and waited until the shaking stopped. When the match ended, the officers called all the students together. They announced the winners. Ethan's group finished all the missions, even though they faced the most surprises. Zennik's team lost points for not adapting. The officers praised Ethan's style. They said, "Your team survived because you used your minds." You did not. Just follow the map. You made your own path. Professor Zennik stood quietly, listening to the praise for Ethan. He felt sad and confused, but also a little proud. He understood now that sometimes order was not enough. After the match, Zennik asked Ethan to meet him. He wanted to understand how a group with no fixed plan could win. Ethan told him, "Sometimes you must trust the people with you. Let them use their ideas. Rules are good, but they are not everything. The world changes. You must change too." The other students crowded around Ethan, asking for stories and advice. They wanted to learn how to survive not just in a simulation, but in real life where things never go as planned. That night, Professor Zinnik sat alone, thinking about everything he had seen. He wondered if maybe, after so many years, it was time to change his own lessons too. For the first time, he wrote in his notebook, "There is strength in chaos." And sometimes, rules are meant to be broken. The academy was different now. Students from many worlds talked about new ideas. Old rules still mattered, but there was new respect for thinking differently. And everyone remembered that the wildest strategies, the ones that could not be written down, were sometimes the best of all. Ask ChatGPT. The next day, the Galactic Academy was full of noise. Students kept talking about Ethan's latest win. Even teachers who usually cared about other lessons now wanted to see what humans could do. Some of the bravest students tried to copy Ethan's moves in the small practice rooms, but most ended up falling or running into each other. Others sat in groups, arguing if chaos was really stronger than order. Professor Zinnik was not ready to give up his old beliefs, but he knew he had to understand Ethan better. He spent most of the night searching for old videos and books about humans. He wanted to learn more about how humans thought and fought. Zinnik even contacted his friends from other planets to ask what they knew about Earth's history. By morning, Zinnik had a new idea. He walked into the main classroom with a stack of old videos, each showing parts of human history. Some were about famous battles, others about small groups fighting to survive. He called all the students, including Ethan, to join him. Zinnik started the lesson with a video from early human times. The screen showed people using stones, fire, and traps to hunt big animals. The students watched as humans used teamwork, tricks, and sudden attacks. Zinnik paused the video and asked the class what they saw. A student from the back raised a hand and said, "They do not fight fair. They use the world around them. They trick the animals." Zinnik nodded, though he looked unhappy. He said, "Yes, humans often use surprise, even in hunting. It is not the way most species fight." Next, Zinnik showed a video from a famous human war. The soldiers built tunnels, made fake camps, and sent false signals. They won battles by making the enemy think they were somewhere else. Ethan watched with a quiet smile. The students talked about what they saw. One alien girl said, "This is very strange. On my planet, we meet the enemy face to face. We do not hide." Another said, "On my world, we only attack if we have more people. We do not use tricks." Ethan spoke up. He said, "Earth is full of danger. The weather, the animals, even the ground can kill you. Humans learn to survive by being clever. Sometimes you have to use a trick or hide. It is not about honor. It is about living to see another day." The students listened carefully. Zinnik tried to explain that order and plans could win wars too, but he felt less sure with each video. He showed battles where armies lost because they could not change their plans when the enemy surprised them. He showed moments when small groups beat larger ones by doing something no one expected. A debate started in the classroom. Some students agreed with Ethan and said they wanted to learn to think fast and try new ideas. Others were not sure. They said chaos made them feel scared and order helped them feel safe. Zinnik listened as his class argued, and he realized he could not control what the students believed anymore. Some students, especially those who lost to Ethan, wanted to try his way. They asked him to show them how to make traps or use the practice room in strange ways. Ethan agreed. He said, "The first thing to learn is to look at everything. Every object might be useful, every sound, every shadow." He took a small group to the empty arena. He picked up a few sticks, a ball, and a piece of cloth. He showed them how to make a simple trap by tying the cloth between two blocks. He asked one of the students to run toward him, and the student tripped over the cloth, falling softly. The group laughed and clapped. Ethan showed how to make noise by hitting two sticks together. He explained, "If you make noise in one place, the enemy will look there. Then you can move somewhere else." He even taught them to copy voices and sounds, which made everyone laugh even harder. Word spread fast. Soon, more students wanted to join. The practice arena was full of noise, laughter, and the sound of things being thrown or tied together. Some students got better with each try, while others fell over and over again. But they all wanted to learn more. Zinnik watched from the side. He felt mixed feelings. Part of him was proud his students were excited. Another part was afraid his old lessons would be forgotten. He tried to bring back order by reminding everyone of the academy's rules. But most students were focused on Ethan. Later, Zinnik asked Ethan to stay behind after the lesson. He said, "I do not understand. Why do the students want to learn? From you, I have studied war for years. My lessons are logical and safe." Ethan said, "Your lessons are good, Professor. But sometimes rules are not enough. When things change, you must change too. That is what humans do. We do not always know what will happen next." Zinnik was silent for a long time. He looked tired and worried. He said, "If everyone learns chaos, will there be no order left?" Ethan smiled and shook his head. "No, Professor. Sometimes you need both. A plan can be good, but if it does not work, you must be ready to do something new." Zinnik did not answer, but he wrote Ethan's words in his notebook. He started to wonder if maybe there was something missing in his own teaching dot in the evenings. Ethan was invited to small groups of students from different planets. They wanted to hear more about Earth. Some asked about famous battles, others about wild animals, and some just wanted to know what it was like to live every day on a world where even a walk in the forest could be dangerous. Ethan told stories about humans making friends with wolves, learning to use fire, and building shelters out of almost nothing. He talked about storms that could destroy whole towns and how people rebuilt everything each time. He said, "Humans never stop trying. We learn and we never give up." The students listened and learned. Some started using Ethan's ideas. In other classes, like math or building things in the workshop, one student used a trick Ethan taught to win a game of strategy, surprising her teacher. Soon, even the teachers asked Ethan to share his thinking with them. Professor Zinnik became quieter, but he watched every lesson. He wrote notes on everything Ethan did. He asked the other teachers for advice and even tried one of Ethan's tricks in a small practice match. He lost, but he started to see that sometimes losing taught more than winning. The academy slowly changed. There was still order and rules, but now there was also room for chaos and surprise. Students were encouraged to think for themselves, not just follow the old ways. The practice rooms were full of laughter and excitement each day. By the end of the week, Ethan was not just a student anymore. He became a friend, a teacher, and someone everyone respected. Professor Zinnik still struggled with his old ideas, but now he listened more and argued less. The day after the second match, the academy felt different. News about Ethan's victory spread to every corner. Alien students from other classes talked about the human who had beaten a team all alone. Some students tried to copy his tricks in their training, but they found it hard. Others started looking at Ethan with new respect. Even the teachers whispered about him in the hallways. Professor Zinnik was not happy. He walked through the academy with a deep frown. He tried to act like nothing was wrong, but his mind was full of questions. How could one human defeat a perfect team? Zinnik thought and thought, but every answer led to more confusion. He decided he needed to try something new. That morning, Zinnik called for a special meeting. He invited the top students and teachers. He also invited Ethan. Zinnik said he wanted to make things fair. He said it was time for a new challenge, one that would really test human tactics. This time, Ethan would have to face a group of students from different planets, each with their own fighting style and special skills. They would have the best technology and tools from the academy. Ethan listened quietly. He saw that many students in the room were strong and smart. Some had armored skin. Others had extra arms or could see in the dark. Their faces were full of confidence. Ethan felt a little nervous, but tried not to show it. The class moved to the biggest training arena in the academy. The floor was full of obstacles, walls, stairs, pits, and moving platforms. Lights flashed as the arena changed shape. The air was tense. Zinnik stood in the middle and explained the rules. Ethan could use anything in the arena. The team could use their tools and gadgets. There were no points for style, only for who lasted until the end. When the signal sounded, the team moved together. They made a plan to trap Ethan between two walls. They used their gadgets to scan for heat and movement. Ethan ran fast, rolling over a small barrier and disappearing behind a pillar. The team split up, some moving left, some right. Their plan was perfect, but Ethan did not follow their plan. He found a rope and tied it between two blocks on the floor. When one of the alien students rushed forward, he tripped and fell, dropping his weapon. Ethan quickly grabbed the weapon and ran to a higher platform. The other team members shouted, warning each other to be careful. Ethan watched them from above. He noticed that one of the students always looked over his shoulder and stayed close to the wall. Ethan threw a small piece of metal to the other side of the arena. The student turned, thinking Ethan was there, and left his safe spot. Ethan slid down the platform, grabbed a pile of loose sand, and tossed it toward the group, making them cough and cover their eyes. The team's gadgets could not help them now. They could not see Ethan, and the sand jammed their sensors. Ethan used the chaos to move fast. He ran, ducked, and rolled under platforms. Every time someone tried to catch him, he was already gone. Zinnik watched everything from the control room. He tried to explain Ethan's actions to the class, but every sentence sounded weaker than the last. Zinnik's notes made no sense. None of his old predictions worked. He kept repeating, he should have turned left, not right. He should have attacked, not hidden. But Ethan kept doing the unexpected. The arena had a dark corner where the lights flickered. Ethan hid there and waited. He listened to the team as they searched for him. He heard them arguing, blaming each other for mistakes. Ethan realized that they were not working together anymore. They were scared and tired. Ethan decided to trick them again. He started making strange sounds, clicks, and whistles like some animals on Earth. The team grew more confused. One student shouted, "He's everywhere." Another said, "No, he's just one person." They moved closer together, afraid of being picked off alone. Ethan used this moment. He threw a stick high into the air. It landed far from where he was hiding, making a loud noise. The whole team rushed toward the sound. Ethan slipped out of the shadows and ran behind them. He tapped two of the students on the shoulder and shouted, "Got you." They turned in shock, realizing he had fooled them again. Now there were only a few team members left. They were tired and nervous. Zinnik, watching from above, looked very worried. He started to doubt his old lessons. Maybe chaos really was powerful. Ethan kept using simple tricks, throwing things, hiding, making sounds, and sometimes just staying still. The team could not keep up. One by one, they were tagged out of the game. Soon, only one student was left. She was tall with bright red skin and sharp eyes. She watched Ethan closely, trying not to fall for his tricks. Ethan moved slowly, watching her too. He knew she was smart. He found a small mirror on the ground and used it to reflect light into her eyes. She covered her face for a second. In that moment, Ethan rushed forward and tagged her. The arena sounded a loud bell. The match was over. Everyone in the academy was silent for a moment. Then the class started to cheer. Some students laughed, others shouted Ethan's name. Even the teachers clapped, except for Professor Zinnik. He sat in the control room, staring at the screens in disbelief. After the match, Zinnik called everyone together. He said, "I do not understand how this is possible. Ethan, you broke every rule of combat. You did not follow any pattern or plan. How do you do it? Ethan looked at Zinnik and said, I do not always know what will work. I just try different. Things on Earth, we call it adapting. Sometimes you have to make a new plan every second. A student asked, do all humans fight like you? Ethan shook his head. No, but Earth is a hard place. We learn to survive any way we can. There are no safe places. If you want to live, you must use everything around you, even things that look useless. Zinnik listened carefully. He felt embarrassed, but he also wanted to learn. He asked Ethan if he could explain more about human thinking and fighting. Ethan smiled and said he would try. The academy felt excited and full of questions. Some students wanted to watch old Earth videos. Others practiced making up new moves. The teachers met together and wondered if they should add new lessons about chaos and surprise. Ethan felt proud but also tired. He went to his room and lay on his bed, thinking about his family back on Earth. He wondered if they would believe him, if he told them that he had beaten the best fighters in the galaxy. Professor Zinnik stayed late in the control room, watching the videos again and again. He wrote in his notebook, maybe there is more than one way to win. Maybe chaos is not always the enemy. The galaxy had changed a little that day. And everyone knew, because of one human student, things would never be the same again. The next morning, the Galactic Academy was full of new energy. Students talked about the strange match from yesterday. Everyone was saying the same thing. The human, Ethan Lee, had done something no one expected. Some students thought he was lucky. Others believed he was clever. A few even wanted to try his wild tricks. The whole academy wanted to see what would happen next. Professor Zinnik did not sleep well that night. He kept thinking about Ethan's victory. He looked at the combat drones records over and over, but nothing made sense. He had never seen a fight like that before. Zinnik felt angry and embarrassed. He wanted to prove that order and logic were better than chaos. He started the day with a new plan. After the morning classes, Zinnik called the students to the main training hall. The hall was bigger this time. There were more chairs, more students, and even some visiting teachers. Zinnik spoke with a strong voice. He told everyone that today's challenge would be different. He said that Ethan would face not just one drone, but a team of students working together. Zinnik carefully picked the best students from different alien species. There was Kira, a tall girl from the planet Norin, with silver hair and fast legs. There was Sam, a quiet boy from Earth's moon, who was good at reading maps and finding paths. There was Tovin, from a planet with low gravity, who could jump higher than anyone. Zinnik also picked Lyra, a small but smart alien with 4 arms who could use many tools at once. Each of these students was strong and skilled. Together, they made a team that followed Zinnik's rules closely. Ethan listened quietly as Zinnik explained the new challenge. This time, the goal was not to fight a machine, but to survive and win against a group that would use real tactics and teamwork. Zinnik told the class to watch and learn. He wanted to show them that order always won in the end. The arena changed. Again, the floor grew larger, and new obstacles rose from the ground. There were walls, barriers, and strange glowing blocks. The lights dimmed, and the game started. Zinnik's team moved together. They talked with hand signals and soft words. They formed a line and moved forward, searching for Ethan. Ethan started alone. He remembered the tricks he learned growing up on Earth. He knew he could not beat this team with strength. He needed to use his mind. He moved quietly, hiding behind walls and ducking under barriers. He listened to the team's voices. He saw their shadows on the floor. He waited. The team split up to search for him. Kira and Lyra moved fast, checking corners and looking under every object. Sam and Tovin watched the middle, blocking the main paths. Zinnik watched from above, sending advice and ideas to his team through a small radio. He wanted everything to go perfectly. Ethan found some loose pieces of metal on the ground. He threw one across the arena. The sound made Kira turn and run in the wrong direction. Lyra followed her, leaving their spot open. Ethan used the chance to slip behind Sam, tapping him lightly on the back before running away. Sam turned, surprised, and shouted to the others. The team started to argue. Some blamed each other for missing Ethan. They grew nervous. Ethan moved fast. He never stayed in one place for long. He sometimes made animal sounds, copying noises from Earth. He mimicked Lyra's voice to confuse the team. At one point, he pretended to be hurt, calling out for help. Kira ran to find him, but Ethan jumped out from behind a wall, tagging her before she could react. Now Kira was out of the game. The class was shocked. Zinnik gripped his datapad, watching as his careful plan started to fall apart. He told the team to regroup and watch for tricks. But Ethan kept changing his moves. He would run, then hide, then appear where no one expected. He found a small tool on the ground and used it to make a loud noise, drawing Sam and Tovin away from Lyra. He then snuck up behind Lyra, tagging her too. The team was down to 2. Sam and Tovin tried to stay together, backs against the wall. Moving slowly, Ethan waited, then started to talk to them from the shadows. He told stories, made jokes, and tried to make them angry or scared. Tovin shouted back, telling Ethan to show himself. Ethan stayed quiet for a moment, then made a sudden noise behind them. Sam and Tovin jumped, turning in different directions. Ethan rushed forward, tagging Tovin and running away. Now only Sam was left. Sam knew Ethan's tricks, since he was part human too. He tried to predict where Ethan would go. But Ethan used the whole arena, moving high and low, always changing his path. In the end, Ethan rolled under a barrier, slid behind Sam, and tagged him from below. The game was over. Ethan had won again. The students cheered, some even stood up and clapped. The teachers talked quietly, surprised by what they saw. Professor Zinnik looked lost. His team had followed every order, but still lost to one human using strange ideas. And quick thinking, Zinnik called Ethan to the center of the hall. He asked, "How did you do it?" Ethan shrugged. "I tried to break up their group. I made them chase shadows. I acted hurt to trick them. Sometimes I just waited and watched. On Earth, we call this improvising." He said he never had a real plan, just ideas he used in the moment. The class started to talk about what they saw. Some students said Ethan was just lucky. Others said he was smart. Zinnik did not know what to say. He tried to explain to the class. That order was still best, but his voice was weak. Later, in the hallways, students crowded around Ethan. Some asked him to teach them his tricks. Others wanted to know more about Earth. Kira, the girl from Norrin, smiled and said she had never seen anyone move like Ethan. Sam said Ethan reminded him of wild animals on Earth's moon. Lyra asked Ethan how to make new plans quickly. Ethan just laughed and said, "You have to try new things. If something does not work, do something else." Professor Zinnik watched from a distance. He felt confused and worried. He had never seen students so interested in chaos. He wondered if he had been wrong about humans. He spent the night looking at old records, searching for a way to stop Ethan's wild tactics. As the day ended, Ethan walked outside to look at the stars. The night on Lyrian was quiet and cool. He thought about his home on Earth, where danger was everywhere and people had to be smart to survive. He did not know what would happen next, but he felt happy that for the first time, he was not just an outsider. He was teaching something new to the whole galaxy. Back in his room, Professor Zinnik wrote in his notebook. He wondered how a single human could beat his best team, not once, but twice. He wrote down the words, chaos, improvising, unpredictability. He did not know if he could ever understand it, but he knew he had to try. The academy was changing, and Zinnik felt a little afraid, but also curious. Maybe there was more to learn from chaos than he ever thought possible. The Galactic Academy was on the peaceful planet called Lyrian. Every year, the Academy had a big event. Students from many planets came to join the Interspecies Combat Strategy Seminar. The best students were picked for this event. They wanted to show their skills to everyone in the galaxy. This year, there was someone special. A human named Ethan Lee had come to the academy as an exchange student from Earth. He was a young man, not very tall, with short brown hair and quiet eyes. Many students looked at him with curiosity. Some whispered about Earth in the stories. They heard stories of a world full of danger, wild animals, storms, and endless wars. They called humans Death Worlders because their planet was so hard to survive on. Ethan did not talk much. He watched everything carefully. He saw the alien students practice their combat drills. Some had tails, some had scales, and some had 3 or 4 arms. Every group had their own style. They moved in perfect lines, followed signals, and worked as one team. Their teachers gave strict orders, and the students listened closely. The most respected teacher at the academy was Professor Zinnik. He was from a planet called Doro. His skin was deep blue, and he had large golden eyes that missed nothing. Zinnik loved logic and order. He believed that every battle could be won by using the right plan. His lessons were famous. He made his students study every move, every pattern. Zinnik thought he understood every fighting style in the galaxy. He had seen thousands of battles and believed he could predict every outcome. Zinnik was not sure why the academy allowed a human to join this year. He told his close friends that human tactics were too strange, too chaotic. He believed that humans won only by luck or wild guesses, not by real skill. But the academy wanted to see if humans had something new to teach. On the first day of the seminar, all the students and professors gathered in the big hall. The walls were silver, and the floor shined like a mirror. There were flags of many planets. The academy's leader, Director Lyra, spoke first. She welcomed everyone and talked about the importance of learning from each other. After the opening, Professor Zinnik stood up to speak. He talked about the rules of combat and why order was important. He said that chaos was the enemy of victory. The students listened quietly. Zinnik then announced a special demonstration. He said the academy wanted to see Earth tactics in action. For this, they had chosen Ethan Lee. Ethan felt nervous, but he walked to the center of the hall. Many alien eyes followed him. He saw some students smiling. Others looked bored, but a few looked worried. Zinnik told Ethan that he would face the Academy's best combat simulation drone. It was a robot made to move and fight like a real alien soldier. Zinnik said the drone would follow normal battle patterns, and the class should watch and learn. The floor changed under Ethan's feet, turning into a small arena. The drone entered, tall and silver, with glowing blue lights for eyes. It waited for the signal. Zinnik nodded to Ethan. He told him to begin when ready. Ethan did not rush. He looked around the arena. He saw small objects on the ground, balls, sticks, and pieces of cloth, maybe left by other students. He smiled a little. The drone stood in the center, arms ready, sensors blinking. Ethan picked up a small ball and tossed it in the air, just to see how the drone would react. The drone did not move. The class started whispering. They wondered what Ethan was doing. Ethan moved left, then right. He crouched low and grabbed a stick. He threw it to the far side of the arena. The drone's head turned to follow the stick. Ethan quickly moved behind a pillar, making as little noise as possible. He waited for a few seconds, then rolled to another spot, picking up a piece of cloth. The drone was programmed to follow targets, but Ethan's movements confused it. He made sudden stops, started running, then changed direction quickly. He waved the cloth, made noises with his mouth, and even pretended to fall down. The class laughed, but Zinnik looked annoyed. The drone attacked where it thought Ethan was going to be, but Ethan was always somewhere else. He used the ball to trip the drone, and when the drone tried to get up, Ethan distracted it again by tapping the wall with the stick. At one point, Ethan lay flat on the ground, making the drone search for him. He then sprang up, grabbed the stick, and poked the drone's sensor. The drone made a confused sound and spun in circles. Zinnik tried to explain what was happening to the class. He pointed at his datapad, showing lines and diagrams, but none of his predictions matched what Ethan was doing. Every time Zinnik thought Ethan would attack, Ethan hid. When Zinnik thought Ethan would hide, Ethan made noise. The class stopped laughing and started watching more closely. The drone's programming was designed for normal fights. It could fight against strength, speed, and even some tricks. But Ethan was not following any pattern. He made up his moves on the spot. He used the arena, the objects, even the echo of his voice to fool the drone. The final moment came when Ethan rolled a ball toward the drone, making it focus on the wrong side. Then he used the stick and the piece of cloth to create a small sling. He launched the last ball right at the drone's sensor. The drone blinked twice, then stopped moving. The arena signaled the end of the round. The simulation registered. An impossible victory for Ethan. The class started to clap. Some students cheered, and others looked shocked. Ethan felt his face get hot, but he smiled anyway. Professor Zinnik was not happy. His hands shook a little as he put down his datapad. He walked into the arena and looked at the frozen drone, then at Ethan. Zinnik asked Ethan what his strategy was. Ethan just shrugged. He said, "I just used what I had." "I tried not to do what you expected." Zinnik did not answer. He told the class that this round was only a test. He said they would try again with more advanced tactics next time. He promised the class that order would always win over chaos. But the class was excited. Some students wanted to talk to Ethan. Others whispered about his strange moves. A few wondered if chaos really was a kind of order they just did not understand. As the hall emptied, Ethan stood alone for a moment. He looked at the empty arena, thinking about how different this world was from Earth. He wondered if he could really teach anything new, or if he would always be the strange outsider. But one thing was clear. He had caught the attention of everyone at the academy, including Professor Zinnik. Tomorrow, things will get even more interesting. Ask ChatGPT.